Alright, so in today's video log, I've had a couple people within the last week approach me and ask me about a very common question I get. I've posted about this before. I'm not sure if I've written about it before, but I figured I'd take the opportunity to sort of rehash this a little bit more and give my thoughts verbally as opposed to just on paper. Maybe it's a little bit better taken in that way. So we're going to talk about cardio and core in particular. A lot of people will ask about these things. Typically people, in the gym will come up to me and they'll pinch a certain part of their body, usually their midsection. Sometimes with women it's the triceps, the back of their arm, and with that there will be some comment along the lines of, I'm really happy with how everything's going, but how do I get rid of this, or what exercises can we do for this? Two individuals within the last week that have spoken with me both came and talked about getting new programs, and they both, they wanted to do more core work and bump up the cardio. The presumption being that they are trying to tone up or drop more body fat or lose weight, whatever term you want to use. And this thought process is really quite flawed. It's been shown through the vast majority of research. I think most strength coaches who actually look at empirical data and peer-reviewed journals would agree that spot reduction, losing body fat at one particular area, does not really exist. You have two options when you're trying to improve the way your body looks. You can either lose body fat, and that's going to come from all over the body. Some areas are just going to be a little more stubborn. It might take you get into a lower body fat percentage, or you can build more muscle in the area. So especially in the core, when people talk about wanting to tone their core, oftentimes, especially to women, and so I ask, do you want your midsection to be bigger? And undoubtedly the answer is always no. The only thing exercise can do for an area is make it stronger or make the muscles bigger. That's it. There's no toning, this magical toning. Toning is a look that requires a lower level of body fat or more muscle mass. All exercise, all strength training will do, it will create a caloric deficit. So, I suppose theoretically, if you did enough crunches, enough sit-ups, enough planks, what have you, you would be burning more energy, and assuming your nutrition, your caloric intake did not increase, you would lose more body fat because of doing those activities. However, the caloric burn from doing those activities is so inferior to heavy compound lifts such as squats, deadlifts, lunges, pull-ups, push-ups, bench press, overhead press, cleans, all these heavy compound movements. You would be much better off if the goal is to just create more of a caloric deficit, to do heavy compound lifting or interval training. So we don't want to, doing more core exercises is not going to give you the six-pack of your dreams. Ultimately, what people are looking for with cardio and core is that sort of this old mindset of spot reduction, and you have to do cardio to lose weight, which is absolutely not true. Now, if you're in competition for a physique competition, bodybuilding, figure fitness, what have you, to get to very extreme low levels of body fat, so with men we're talking under 10% body fat, for women we're talking under 15% body fat, then higher amounts of cardio are oftentimes needed, simply because if your calories get too low, we start getting signs of malnutrition. So we don't want to ever really take our calories below about 10 calories per pound of body weight. So if we stop losing weight, we stop losing body fat, and we're already at that low calorie intake, then the only other option is to increase cardiovascular exercise or just increase activity in order to create more of a caloric deficit. So in those cases, yes, a little bit more cardio might be necessary, but for the vast majority of people who are slightly overweight that I'm talking about, that stuff is not needed. What you ultimately want is to have as much muscle mass as possible and a low enough level of body fat to where you have whatever level of definition or toning that you deem fit, that you desire, that you like that look. Ultimately, that's going to come down to having a caloric deficit, having the proper training to build and maintain that muscle mass, and then, like I said, having the caloric deficit so that you lose body fat. And what I mean by caloric deficit, if that's foreign language to some of you, is simply you have to burn more calories through the activity you do each day than what you ingest and what you eat. So if you are trying to improve your body composition or lose weight, typically people who want to lose weight are really more concerned with their body composition. They don't want to just lose weight and have the same amount of, they don't want to lose muscle mass in that process. So I'm going to assume that when we're talking about losing weight, we're wanting to maintain muscle mass and drop body fat. So if that is in fact our goal, we have to monitor nutrition. Some people might get results without really tracking their caloric intake by following some set of rules, whether it's paleo or Atkins or vegan or gluten-free, whatever. They're decreasing their calories simply by eradicating a bunch of foods off of their food intake. So those methods will all work typically for a period of time until you adjust to that, and then you start overeating those foods, in which case you stop losing weight. You might even start to regain weight. So if we want to improve our body composition, you have to pay attention to nutrition. You have to pay attention to training value. The biggest determinants of building muscle mass or holding on to muscle mass is training volume, sets times reps times weight. Okay, so if I do 100-pound curls for 10 reps, okay, that would be for just one set. Okay, we're talking 1,000 pounds of training volume for that exercise. Okay, so training volume is going to be the biggest, most understood indicator to tell us how much strength and how much muscle mass we're going to build and or maintain. And then relative load. So the weight needs to be challenging if we really want to hold on to muscle mass. So a lot of times people, they do the right things when they're trying to put on muscle mass, when they're trying to increase strength and size, and then they decide that, well, I want to be a little bit leaner, and they think everything has to change. They think they have to do a lot of core work, they have to do a lot more cardio. That's the best thing in the world if you want to lose all that hard-earned muscle mass, if you want to get smaller and weaker. Okay, but if you want to maintain as much muscle as possible, then we need to keep up with what got you there. You have to give your muscles a reason to stay. So that means adequate amounts of volume, and that means heavy enough weights to strain yourself and to keep the muscles there. The other side of that coin, maybe even the equally important, probably even more important if we're talking about losing body fat, is nutrition. And I posted on our Facebook page the other day a pyramid from Renaissance periodization of sort of priorities, and I would agree. I might give their percentages slightly a little bit different intake, but people tend to worry about the really small, insignificant things and not focus on the absolute most important things. So if we had a pyramid and we were talking about what is the absolute most important thing for improving body composition, losing weight, losing body fat, 50 to 60% importance, the bottom half at least of that pyramid is caloric intake. More important than anything else. Okay, so I would say, let's call that 50%. The next 25 to 30% of that is going to be macronutrient breakdown. So that's simply how many carbohydrates, how much protein, how much fat in the diet, and what the breakdown is of those macronutrients. And within that, 25 to 30%, let's call it 30%, so we have nice even numbers. Adequate protein intake. So if we're trying to lose body fat, we need, anywhere from about 0.8 grams per pound up to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. If you're an older individual, a lot of research shows that we have anabolic resistance, which simply means that protein doesn't do a good job at stimulating protein synthesis as it should in older individuals. We're talking, over 50 years of age, so you probably are going to be on that higher end. Also, if your body fat percentage is getting relatively low, or we have a lot of other stressors in our life, then protein is going to need to be on the higher end. Okay. So I usually would start somebody on the lower end, and then if we start to see signs of loss in muscle mass when we check body composition, then we're going to want to gradually bump that protein intake up close to that 1.5 grams per pound of body weight mark. So that's the, so calories, total caloric intake, 50%, the bottom 50% of that pyramid. The next 30% is going to be that macronutrient breakdown, how much protein, how much carbohydrates, how much fat. The next, say, 10% there of that pyramid is going to be nutrient timing. Okay, so that means when you are eating that food, how frequently you're eating, how the meals are spaced out, and all that good stuff. How close to workout, breakfast, dinner, all that, how regularly you're eating, how patterned you're eating. So that's going to be, the next 10%. So the bottom 80% calories, macronutrients, and then the next 10% on top of that would be nutrient timing. And then, up above that, the next maybe 5% or so is going to be food type, or food composition. So what type of protein are we eating? What type of carbohydrates are we eating? What types of fat are we eating? Is it organic? Is it GMO? Is it complex carbohydrates? Is it sugar? Is it protein sources coming from vegetables that have a lower leucine count? Or is it protein sources coming from animal products that tend to have a higher leucine count? Are they polyunsaturated, monounsaturated fats, saturated fats, trans fats? That's the, very tippy top 5% of the pyramid. And then the very last 5% taking us to 100% would be, supplements. And I probably realistically, I would throw, water intake and sleep in there somewhere as well. If we skew the percentages a little bit, that water and sleep would probably be more important than food composition and supplements, but less important, than macronutrients, and possibly less important than meal timing. So everybody wants to worry about what people tend to worry about when it comes to nutrition, if they're going to even pay attention to nutrition. They simply want to worry about that top 10%. They will always want to ask about food type, food composition. They want to argue about organic food or GMOs or gluten or dairy. They want to argue about sugar or saturated fat or whatever. They want to argue about the very 5% impactor, and they want to argue about, or they want to ask about supplements and what supplements are best. On the whole, those two things combined maybe make up 10% at best of overall outcome from your exercise program and your nutrition program. So in the grand scheme of things, it really does not matter that much. What really matters, like I said, calorie intake, macronutrient breakdown. Okay, calories 50%, macronutrients about 30%. The timing about 10%. Getting enough sleep, getting enough water. Throw that in there with that 10% of nutrient timing, and then that last 10% divided between food type and food composition and supplements. Okay, very insignificant things that everybody wants to ask about. Those things first. Within training, nothing needs to change. You need to continue to work hard. You need to continue to lift heavy. Doing interval training is important. But ultimately, you need to keep in mind the weight loss needs to be slow and gradual. The faster you lose it, statistically, the more likely you are to lose that hard-earned muscle mass. And I've seen this in myself. I've seen it in other clients. So it is paramount, very important that you keep up heavy weights. The cardio, the condition. For my last powerlifting meet, I started my sort of dropping weight in March. The meet was at the end of May. I went from 204 down to 181. That was probably more weight than I should have lost. I lost during that process of losing a little over 30 pounds. I ended up losing a decent amount of muscle mass, which negatively impacted me on meet day. So we don't really want to lose weight that quickly. That's not ideal. And then you have to regain that muscle back at a later date. So the faster you're losing it, the more likely you are to lose muscle mass, in which case your body composition is not changing as good as it could. If you only lose a ½ pound per week, but it's all body fat, you're going to be a lot better off than if you're losing 2 pounds a week, but half of it's muscle. people don't realize how common that is. If you look at a lot of weight loss studies, especially where no strength training is done, half the weight loss is very common for 50% of that weight loss to be muscle mass. So it's not that whenever you lose weight you're just losing body fat. Muscle mass, absolutely, especially if protein intake is too low and you're not doing the heavy resistance training or enough volume, then you absolutely will lose muscle mass. So it's very important to keep up with that. Cardio does not have to be extreme. Because at that last meet, you know, in that probably twofold, I lost weight a little bit too fast, but I also lost weight a little bit too, and my protein intake realistically could have been higher sooner, and I sort of, you know, came to that conclusion a little bit too late, and when I had to lose weight quicker than I should have. So as far as, you know, rate of weight loss, most of the research tends to show that when you start losing more than 0.5%, you know, especially when you start losing more than 1% of body weight per week, but even over 0.5% body weight per week, you start to lose a significant amount of muscle mass. So slow and steady wins the race. It's also going to mean that you're making more manageable, long-term, maintainable changes to your nutrition, to your exercise program. And then the same thing on the flip side, if you were to try to regain muscle mass and strength, a slow and steady weight gain is going to be ideal if you want to avoid putting a bunch of body fat back on in the process. So I guess just to summarize, cardio and core do not do anything useful for improving body composition. If you simply want to lose weight, then do cardio till you're blue in the face and you get small and frail. But if you want to stay strong and maintain your muscle mass and quality of life and longevity, then you need to really dial in your nutrition. You need to continue to lift heavy and hard, and, you know, use cardio sparingly when you do use it. Do more of an interval style training, really hard and fast, take a little break, hard and fast again. No more than, if you have to do more, you know, than an hour or two of cardio training during the week, you're eating like crap and you're not disciplined enough. That really needs to be the focus. Train hard, lift heavy, eat right, get the physique that you're looking for. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment on the video, send me an email, jeff@fentfitness.com, comment on our Facebook page. We'd love to hear feedback. If there's anything else you would like me to cover in the future, next month, again, let me know and I'll try to see what I can do. Thanks, have a great day.